Good evening. Due to the COVID-19 emergency, tonight's Committee of Adjustment hearing is being held by video conference and live streaming video on the town's live stream webpage at oakville.ca. This is to hear and consider applications for minor variance and consents held under the authority of the Planning Act. Please keep in mind the intent of this process is to review the application that is before the committee, listen to the evidence, and then make a decision. This process is not intended to be used to resolve any concerns or disputes that may exist between the town, individuals, or organizations. If a request for a deferral is made and the committee grants such a request, the applicant or authorized agent must contact the Secretary-Treasurer to schedule a new hearing date. In order to conduct an effective and efficient electronic hearing, we have adopted the following process. If you are watching the live stream of this hearing on oakville.ca, and if you wish to speak to an item on the agenda, you can call 905-815-6095. Again, the number is 905-815-6095. The phone number is also posted on your screen below the live stream at oakville.ca. Staff will be standing by to take your call. When you call in, staff will ask for your name, item number, and that you wish to address, and your telephone number. Further instructions will be provided to you to join the video conference. When the chair of the committee polls the interested parties, the Secretary-Treasurer will unmute you when it is your time to speak. The applicant or agent will be given the opportunity to briefly explain to the committee the basis of their application and answer questions that may arise. A maximum of 5 minutes will be provided to the presentation. You will need to state your full name and address for the record, and submissions beyond the 5 minutes will be at the discretion of the committee. All delegations must also state their full name and address for the record. A maximum of 5 minutes will be provided for their presentation. Any remarks or questions are to be directed to the chair, and any submissions beyond the 5 minutes will be at the discretion of the committee. The applicant or agent will then be provided with a further 5 minutes to respond to any comments by interested parties and answer any questions from committee members. If the applicant or agent has concerns found in staff report, particularly the proposed conditions, this will be the opportunity to advise us. The matter will then be taken into committee for a decision, and this will mark the end of all discussion. Any person desiring a notice of decision for an application must provide a written request, preferably through email, to the Secretary-Treasurer. Please note that you must make a written request in order for you to be included on the list that is going to be used by the Ontario Land Tribunal for the giving of any subsequent notice of any appeal. Written notice of the committee's decision will be mailed no later than 10 days for minor variance and 15 days for consent applications to the applicant, agent, and any other person who has filed such a written request. If you do not agree with the committee's decision, you may be able to appeal this to the Ontario Land Tribunal. The last day to appeal the decision to the Ontario Land Tribunal will be noted on the notice of the decision. If no appeal is received within the prescribed timeframe, the decision of the committee becomes final and binding, and the Secretary-Treasurer will then notify the applicant and anyone who has received a copy of the decision through written correspondence. People participating in this hearing are to be courteous to and respectful of the members of the committee, town staff, and any other person participating in the electronic hearing. Tonight's meeting is being recorded and will be available for video for future viewing at oakville.ca. Thank you. Oh, we don't have any regrets, do we? Yeah. Oh, yes, Mr. Talowski is not here today. Do I have any declarations of pecuniary interest? See none. Very well. And Madam Secretary Treasurer, I'll be taking deferrals or withdrawal requests for withdrawal of applications at this time.
Madam Chair, I do have requests from Mr. Gastrici, and I'm just going to promote him to. Sorry, I do have a difficulty to promote. Just a second, please.
No problem.
Madam Chair, Gastrici is on the line. Mr. Gastrici.
Good evening, Mr. Ricci.
Good evening, Madam Chair. My name is Gus Ricci, and I'm the architect and agent for the application at 129 Claxton Drive, CV 072-2021. We're here to ask for deferral again for the application. I know it has been deferred once previously, but we have received the staff planning comments, which did not support all three. They support one out of the three variances being requested. So our client has informed us that he'd like to possibly reassess the project design and possibly look at changing the aesthetics of the project itself. So I think we need a bit more time to, address not only the planning comments, but also some of the comments that we received from the neighbors when we went around and canvassed the neighbors. I know that you've received 2 letters of objection for the project from some of the immediate neighbors. I have submitted 3 letters of support from some neighbors, but I think it would be wise to defer the application at this point so that we can address not only planning staff, but some of the other neighbors' comments. Thank you.
Very well, thank you, Mr. Ricci. Are there any questions of Mr. Ricci at this time? I see none. All those in support of a deferral? Okay, your application has been deferred, Mr. Ricci. You'll see the Secretary Treasurer when you're ready.
Thank you.
Okay, if there's no other applications that are requesting a deferral at this time, we can start with the first item on our agenda, which is CAV 148 of 2021 at 457 Wildwood Drive. Again, it's CAV 148 of 2021 at 457 Wildwood Drive. If there's anyone who's interested in speaking to this application, please call 905-815-6095, and staff will be standing by to take your call and provide you with further instructions to join the video conferencing. Who do we have here for this application?
My name is James Macklem, and I'm representing Matthew Rebo and Perspective Views regarding this application.
Very well, good evening, Mr. Macklem. Go ahead, sir.
So we've applied for the variances for the side yard setbacks, as well as the front yard porch encroachments. We have received letter of support from city staff regarding both variances. We'd also like to point out that for the front porch variance, we intend on covering the porch with a roof that is adequate design and comparability to the rest of the main roof. And it's really going to tie the whole home design together, to be quite frank. And I'm just here to support any questions that you guys may have regarding this application.
Very well, thank you. Are there any questions of Mr. Macklem at this time? I see none. Secretary Treasurer, has anyone called in regarding this application?
Madam Chair, if you can just repeat to that anyone who wants to speak, they need to raise a hand so I can promote them to speak.
Sure. This is application CAV 148 of 2021 at 457 Wildwood Drive. If you're interested in speaking to this application, please raise your hand.
There is nobody for the speaking.
Okay, very well. And we'll take the matter into committee. Who would like to move a motion? Go ahead, Mr. Hardcastle.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Having undertaken my site visit, reviewed the written materials, including the staff report, and heard the presentation from the applicant, I'm satisfied that the requested variances conform to the four tests of the Act. I would note that it's a bungalow, replacing the existing bungalow, maintaining largely the side yard setbacks that are existing within the area, and the integration of the front porch is consistent and will propose, consistent with the character of the area, and will propose no negative impacts upon the adjacent community. And as such, I'll put forward a motion of approval, subject to two conditions, those being that the addition be built in general accordance with the submitted site plan and elevation drawings dated August 24th, 2021, and that the approval will expire within 2 years of the date of the decision if a building permit has not been issued. I would note there were no members of the public present with respect to this matter to make deputations.
Very well, thank you, Mr. Hardcastle. Is there a discussion on this recommendation? I see none. All those in support? Okay, the application has been approved. Have a good night. Application CAV 149 of 2021 at 40 Brentwood Road. Again, it's application CAV 149 of 2021 at 40 Brentwood Road. If you're interested in speaking to this application, please call 905-815-6095 and staff will be standing by to take your call and provide you with further instructions to join the video conference. Who is the agent that's representing this application?
The agent is Daniel Patterson. He needs to unmute himself.
Hello, Madam
Mr.
Speaker.
Peters, are you with us?
I am with you, yes.
If you'd be kind enough to turn your camera on, and you may go ahead, sir.
Originally, we were hoping to have Michael Sanchez, the homeowner, be present to present the application, and apologies for the confusion there. I'm not sure if there's a way to promote him to be able to speak on the application on behalf of himself.
If he's here, we can promote him.
He is here, yes.
Okay, just a second.
Hi there, can you hear me?
Yes, we can now.
Perfect. Okay. So hello, Madam Speaker. Sorry about that, having some technical difficulties. My name's Mike Sanchez. I'm the owner of 40 Brentwood.
Go ahead, Mr. Sanchez.
Well, I just wanted to state that I concur with the planning report and believe that the proposed variance meets the four tenets of the Planning Act, and I'd be happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Very well. Are there any questions or items of clarification for Mr. Sanchez at this time? Okay, I see none. If there's anybody in the public that is interested in speaking to this application, please raise your hand and the Secretary Treasurer will unmute you to speak. Okay, I don't see that there's anyone present for this application. Who will take the matter into committee and who would like to move a motion? Go ahead, Ms. Murray.
Good evening, everyone. Madam Chair, having conducted my site visit and reviewed the applicant's written submission, as well as the town's written staff report, I note that the staff is in support of this application. I'm satisfied that the minor variance application meets all 4 tests under the Planning Act, and I'm proposed to make a motion to approve the application with the following conditions: that the dwelling be built in general accordance with the submitted site plan and elevation drawings dated July 20th, 2021, and that the approval expires 2 years from the date of the decision if a building permit has been issued. I note there are no letters of objection to this application, either by written form or oral at this time, at this meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Murray. Any discussion on this recommendation? I see none. All those in support? Okay, your application has been approved.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
You as well.
Application CAV 150 of 2021 at 1470 Albion Avenue. Again, CAV 150 of 2021 at 1470 Albion Avenue. If you're interested in speaking to this application, please call 905-815-6095 and staff will be standing by to take your call and provide you with further instructions to join the video conferencing. Okay. Mr. Castillo.
Good evening, Madam Speaker. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hello. We are applying for a minor variance for RFA. This is our second time making this application. Early last year, we did an application and we got it denied. We went back and reduced the square footage of the whole house, lot coverage. We took in consideration a lot of the comments from planning. We did all the recommendations. So out of, I think, 4 variances we had before, now we're only coming back with just one for RFA. We're requesting to go up to 30.87% instead of 29%. So just a difference of 26.64 meters for RFA. Planning, we submitted drawings to planning to Ms. Catherine, and she supported the application. So we just want to see if there's any other issues. We did talk with the neighbors the previous time to try to accommodate all of their concerns. So this time around, I'm pretty sure everything else has been addressed and we should be in good position to get this approved.
Very well, thank you, Mr. Castillo. Are there any questions or items of clarifications at this time? I see none. If there's anyone in the public who's interested in speaking to this application, please raise your hand and you'll be promoted to speak. Okay. Who would like to move a motion? Go ahead, Mr. Flemington.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Having reviewed the application before us and thanking the applicant making the revisions, it's appreciated. Also noting that the town's written staff report is in support of the motion, as well as having taken into account the comments presented this evening by the applicant's agent. Also noting that there were no questions or submissions that were from the public submitted in writing nor orally during the presentation. I am prepared to move a motion that the application be approved as applied for with the following two conditions. That the dwelling be built in general accordance with the submitted site plan reference 10, dated 05/26/2021, and elevation drawings dated May 5th, 2021. And our second condition that the approval expires 2 years from the date of the decision if a building permit has not been issued for the proposed construction.
Very well. Are there any discussions on this recommendation? I see none. All those in support? Your application has been approved.
Thank you very much, members and Madam.
Go ahead.
No, I'm just saying thank you very much for your approval.
You're very welcome. Go ahead. We'll have a good night.
Thank you.
Application CAV 151 of 2021 at 234 Wales Crescent. Again, this is the application CAV 151 of 2021 at 234 Wales Crescent. Is there anyone who'd like to speak to this application? Please dial 905-815-6095. And staff will be standing by to take your call and provide you with further instructions to join the video conference. Can you please unmute yourself? I see you, I just can't hear you.
There we go. Sorry, Madam Chair.
Go ahead.
My name is Enzo Lacasano. We're the applicant agent for this proposal. The main proposal is to create an accessory dwelling unit within the existing dwelling unit in the basement. As you can see, the variance exceeds the maximum allowable for an accessory dwelling unit, and also the parking spaces. We did submit a photo of the existing parking out front. Physically, we can get 2 cars in the driveway and more, because obviously there's no curb here. But technically, from the city's requirements, they're only counting 1 in the garage and 1 in the driveway. So we have applied for the 2 additional spaces out front, 1 for the unit in the basement. And that's pretty much it. It's a very straightforward application. We received all the comments from the planning department and other departments with no objection to this application, and we feel that this is very minor in nature, meets all the 4 tests, and has absolutely no impact to the community.
Very well. Are there any questions of Mr. Lacasano at this time? See none. If there's anyone who's interested in speaking to this application, please raise your hand so that you can be promoted to speak. Okay, we'll take the matter into committee. Who would like to move a motion? Go ahead, Mr. Hardcastle.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Having undertaken my site visit, having reviewed the applicant submissions and the written town staff report, as well as having heard the deputation by the applicant, I'm prepared to put forward a motion of approval, finding that the enlargement of the permitted accessory unit and result in reduction, in parking will not pose an impact and will function adequately for the additional use on site. So the motion of approval should be subject to 2 conditions, those being that the dwelling be built in general accordance with the submitted site plan and elevation. Perhaps this standard wording is inaccurate, that perhaps it should be reworded that the construction activity be undertaken in accordance with the submitted site plan. May I ask town staff to clarify if they have any challenges with that?
Can you repeat? So what the word you're taking out is general? Is that what I'm
No,
hearing?
no,
Sorry.
It speaks to the dwelling be built in general accordance, and this is not the construction of a new dwelling, but in fact a renovation, so that the
Correct.
renovation or construction activity be undertaken in general accordance with the submitted site plan and elevation drawings.
Yeah, I think that's satisfactory in this situation, because they're making internal changes, and the elevation proves that the doorway is coming at the side of the dwelling. I'm okay with that.
Okay, thank you. That the construction activity be undertaken in general accordance with the submitted site plan and elevations dated August 24th, 2021, and that the approval expire within 2 years of the date of the decision if a building permit has not been issued. I would note there were no members of the public present with respect to this matter, and there were no letters received with respect to this matter.
Very well, thank you, Mr. Hardcastle. Is there a discussion on this recommendation? I see none. All those in support? Okay, the application has been approved, none opposed.
Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Good night. Okay, application CAV 152 of 2021 at 422 Mcdonald Road. Again, it's application CAV 152 of 2021 at 422 Mcdonald Road. If anyone is interested in speaking to this application, please call 905-815-6095 and staff will be standing by to take your call and provide you with further instructions. Good evening, Mr. Parmar.
Hi, good evening, Madam Chair. My name is Vineet Parmar and I am the owner for 422 McDonald Road. As the owner, I'm probably not as polished as some of the other presenters, so I'll look for guidance from yourself and the committee if I missed anything. The variance that I'm applying for is for a front porch addition. You'll see the drawing here. If we can go to slide actually number 3. So the details, so you'll see the front porch addition there. I do have the full support of the city within their report. The variance that I'm going for is 25.63%. The existing dwelling itself is at 24.96, so the proposed porch is only 5.91 square meter. If we go to next slide, please. You'll see here what the floor plan looks like. If we can jump to slide number 6. So what I did is I went across the neighborhood and I got full support from all my neighbors. And on slide number 7, you will see the signatures of all the neighbors, including their name, address, and signature. So I'll open it up to any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Parmar. You did very well. Any questions at this time or items of clarification? Okay, I see none. Well, it seems like you do have all the support of your neighbors, so I doubt there's anyone here who would like to speak to the application, but I will still canvass the attendees. If there's anyone here who'd like to speak to application CAV 152 of 2021 at 422 McDonald Road, please do raise your hand in order to be promoted to speak. Okay, who would like to take this matter into committee and promote a motion. Go ahead, Ms. Murray. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Having conducted my site visit and reviewed the applicant's written submission, as well as the town's written staff report, also having taken into consideration the comments presented by the applicant this evening, Mr. Parmar, you nailed it. You did a great job, and I commend you for getting support of your neighbors. It's a great thing to be able to do that. So I'm satisfied that the minor variance meets all 4 tests under the Planning Act, and I'm prepared to make a motion to approve the application with of special note. I understand there were 9 neighbors in support of. Did I get that total number right? Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, and I would approve the application again with the following conditions: that the addition be built in general accordance with a submitted site plan and elevation drawings dated 2021-08-23, and that the approval expires.
I have 03.
Yes, yeah, to 2021-08-03.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that the approval expires 2 years from the date of a decision if a building permit has not been issued. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Is there a discussion on this recommendation? Okay, all those in support? The application has been approved. Thank you and have a good night.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Sorry, Ms. Murray, I thought I heard you say 23.
Oh, my audio might not be all that reliable.
Okay, application CAV 153 of 2021 at 3034 Cascade Common. Again, the application is CAV 153 of 2021 at 3034 Cascade Common. If anyone would like to speak to this application, please call 905-815-6095 and you'll be provided with further instructions to join the video conference. Good evening.
Good evening. Hi, this is Ozrin Stambuk. I'm in 1410 DuPont Street in Toronto.
Evening, Mr. Stambuk. Go ahead, sir. Do you have a presentation for us?
I would just like to say that I agree with all the comments of planning services, and I think this is the logical spot in this backyard to put the pool so as not to obstruct any future planning of any deck expansions or anything like that, or using that space right at the back of the house. And I'm open to any questions, of course.
Very well. Are there any questions of Mr. Stambuk at this time or items of clarification? Okay, if and there's anyone online that would like to speak to this application, please do raise your hand so that you can be promoted to speak. Okay, we have none who would like to move a motion. Go ahead, Mr. Flemington. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Having reviewed the applicant's written submission, as well as receiving the oral presentation this evening, noting that there were no oral or written objections with regards to the application, and also noting that the town's written staff report is in support of the motion. I am prepared to move the motion that the application be approved as applied for, finding that it's minor in nature and meets 4 tests of the Planning Act, with the following 2 conditions. That the pool be built in general accordance with the site plan submitted as part of the committee adjustment application received on September 2nd, 2021. And 2, that the approval expires 2 years from the date of the decision if a building permit has not been issued for the proposed construction.
Very well. Thank you, Mr. Flemington. Is there a discussion on this recommendation? I see none. All those in support? Okay, the application has been approved, none opposed. Have a good night, Mr. Stambuk.
Thank you.
Okay, application CAV 154 of 2021 at 1403 Wren Avenue. Again, it's application CAB 154 of 2021 at 1403 Wren Avenue. Mr. Barrett, how are you?
Good. How are you? Good. So my name is Graham Barrett of 1575 Dundas Street West. I'm the agent for the owner of 1403 Wren Avenue.
Go ahead, Mr. Barrett.
Okay, thank you. So this is a proposal to demolish the existing one-story single-family dwelling and construct a new two-story single-family dwelling in its place. We've worked with planning staff closely on this prior to submission and made some adjustments to the plans before even submitting an application for committee of adjustment. So that included reducing the height, improving the flankage yard setback to comply, and bringing the floor area down slightly. We're now proposing 3 minor variances from the zoning bylaw. First being to relocate a driveway so that it is 12.4 meters from the point of intersection of the projection of the front and flankage lot lines, where 15 meters is required. This is required to move that driveway a little bit away from the rear amenity space, and it's mitigated by a fairly large area of city property around the site. And there's a fair bit of distance still from this driveway to the actual corner. And I did speak with planning staff, and they helped run this by transportation and ensure there were no concerns. So I appreciate the help there. The second variance is to permit a minimum rear yard of 5.68 meters, where 7.5 is required. If you take a look at the site plan, the entire purpose of this is that the house had to be shifted over to protect a couple of mature trees on the site. I've included a couple photos as well in the file with my cover letter that was submitted. So you can see there are a couple of large, beautiful trees on one side of the site. So that's the view of the home as is. The bottom picture shows all these trees on the one side. And if you scroll to the next page, you can see a little closer. So there are a few trees that the owner would very much like to preserve. So in order to do so, he had to shift this dwelling over and create a few jogs in the design to maintain adequate tree protection zones. So that presented a bit of a challenge when it came to designing this home. Also, that rear setback is measured to the rear covered porch, and that's a one-story element of the dwelling. And the rest of the home is actually set back 9.31 meters from the rear lot line. The third variance is to permit a residential floor area ratio of 43.09%, where the max is 41. As quite a minor increase of about 150 square feet. And part of this is to provide a little additional living space, and also creating a design that worked to protect these trees, made for a challenging layout and floor plans. So this minor variance is mostly the result of that. So the owner has been very considerate of his neighbors, and we've submitted a few letters of support from 3 of them, including both adjacent. And we had verbal support from a neighbor at 536 Sharon. And I personally reached out to quite a few other neighbors along Wren and on Sharon Drive with a letter providing a brief explanation of the proposal and offering to chat if there are any questions or concerns. And I haven't heard back from any of them. Something else I should mention is there is a shared tree between 1403 Wren Avenue, the subject property, and 549 Sharon Drive, and that requires removal. The owner has spoken with his neighbors and entered into an agreement to plant a few new mid-sized cedar trees on the property at 549 Sharon to replace the one being removed. It's nice that they were able to work that out. To sum up, this will be a tasteful and suitable addition to the area. There are quite a few other newer homes of comparable character. If you flip ahead, you can see a few photos of other homes on Wren and on Sharon that are there. That's directly across the street, currently under construction, and a couple other newer homes that are complete. So I believe this passes the 4 tests. And again, I'd like to thank planning staff. They were very helpful throughout this process, and I appreciate their responsiveness. And that's all. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Great, thank you, Mr. Barrett. It's always good to hear that the neighbors work things out before they come before the committee and everything's ironed out to everyone's satisfaction. Are there any questions of Mr. Barrett at this time? or items of clarification? Okay, I see none. We do note that you have 3 letters of support that we've received, and if there's anyone who is online that would like to speak to this application, CAV 154 of 2021 at 1403 Wren Avenue, please raise your hand and the Secretary Treasurer will promote you to speak. Okay, doesn't seem like anyone would like to say anything. Who would like to move a motion for this application? Go ahead, Mr. Hardcastle.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Having undertaken my site visit and reviewed the written submissions, including the staff report, I'm satisfied that the requested variances conform to the 4 tests of the Act, and thus I'll put forward a motion of approval, subject to 2 conditions. Those conditions being that the dwelling be built in general accordance with the submitted site plan and elevation drawings dated 2021-09-01, and that the approval expires within 2 years of the date of the decision if a permit has not been issued. I would note that there were no members of the public present to speak to this matter. And there were 3 letters of support submitted with respect to this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hardcastle. Is there discussion on this recommendation? I see none. All those in support? Okay, the application has been approved, none opposed.
Thank you very much.
Have a good night, Mr. Variance.
You as well.
Application CAV 155 of 2021 at 1100 Tuzman Way. Again, application CAV 155 of 2021 at 1100 Tuzman Way. If anyone would like to speak to this application, please call 905-815-6095. Again, it's 905-815-6095. Who do we have here representing this application?
Gabe Ferone here. Can you hear me?
Hello, Mr. Ferone. Yes, we can hear you. If you can put your camera on, please do. And staff will put your presentation up if you have one.
Can't seem to get my camera on. I apologize. Is that okay? Can we work without the camera?
Yes, go ahead then.
Okay. So this application was in front of this committee last September 15th. At that time, the variance was the same as what we're requesting today, which was a rear yard variance. We're back because the owners have decided to increase the width of this 1-story rear addition. So at that time, I think the width was up and around 13.5 feet. We're now asking for a width of 24 feet. In doing so, we haven't created any other variances. We're still going after this rear yard variance. I would like to request, if possible, the design right now shows a gable roof. The owners may want to change the roof line. Is it possible not to tie the decision to the elevations? I'm fine with the plans, but because this roof line may change, I'm just hoping that maybe we can not tie it to the elevations, if possible.
We'll have town staff comment on that, and
Okay.
then we can move forward from there. Do you have any further submissions?
No, that's it. So this is the original site plan. This is the site plan that was applied with last year. I think page 11 will show you the floor plan and what the difference is now, and you'll see that it's wider. So we're at 7.22 meters as opposed to, I think it was 4.58 meters wide. So they've gone across the width of the house. They've increased that width as opposed to just having it on the just on the one side as they did last year.
Okay.
Okay.
Are there any questions or items of clarification of Mr. Ferone at this time? Okay, I see none. there's anyone who'd like to speak to this application, please raise your hand and the Secretary Treasurer will promote you to speak. Okay, we have no further submissions. Who would like to move a motion? Go ahead, Mr. Hardcastle.
Madam Chair, can we hear
Yeah.
from town staff with respect to?
Oh, I apologize. I did forget that. I was waiting for Catherine to chime in and that totally slipped my mind.
Through you, Madam Chair, I was waiting for you to, to address me. I didn't want to interrupt.
My bad.
That's okay. In this situation, I'd caution against not tying them to the elevations solely because the elevations show the height of what's being proposed. And I think that's an important factor in terms of whether something's appropriate or not in that space. If it was to increase substantially in height, that would then provide a different condition than what's being reviewed today. But this is obviously up to the committee's discretion whether this would be appropriate or not.
How do you feel about tying it as submitted to the site plan and then elevation drawings to the satisfactory of the Director of Planning? That way you get to see the elevations and approve them once they've decided whether they're going with a gable roof or not. Is that fair?
I think that could be appropriate as long because then we could consider that it's along the similar lines in terms of height in that area, as long as the committee is comfortable with that.
Could I?
I'll leave it up to the my committee members. How do you feel about that recommendation? You're okay, Ms. Murray. I see a head nod. I see thumbs up from Mr. Flemington. Are you okay with that, Mr. Hardcastle? You're. I see the wheels turning, so I'll give you a minute.
And the wheels are turning slow this evening, Madam Chair. So
Okay, go ahead. I think I hear Mr. Frone wanting to interject. Go ahead.
And so instead of the gable end, it looks like we're going to go with the shed roof. So there won't be a peak on this roof. So it will, as you may or may not know, a shed roof will start at the rear wall and then slope towards the back wall of the house. So I think height-wise, we won't be as.
I think what town staff is, and I concur with them, is they want to be able to see that our approval is tied to drawings and that there's no changes that are going to happen after the fact. So we try to err on the side of caution, not to say that we don't trust that you're going to maintain what you say. I mean, it is video recorded and everything. It's just as a matter of principle how we do and conduct our processes in business for this committee.
I thought I would, just at least ask and see what could come up.
Oh no, and we're fine. We're trying to work with you.
Right.
We understand what you're trying to accomplish. Let me hear from Mr. Hardcastle, and then we can go from there.
Madam Chair, having heard what what Mr. Ferrone has indicated, the option of a shed style roof would actually reduce the impacts that this would have in the rear yard, or it has the potential of doing so. And as such, I think I could support the idea of the elevations to the satisfaction of the director. I don't think that it would impact our assessment here.
Okay, so if Ms. Butterfield is in agreement, we'll leave it at that.
I think this could be okay. I just want to make sure that it is consistent with what the public has seen through the notice so that there's no surprises. But if it's considered to be a lesser impact, I think then that may be appropriate. But it will be through the discretion of the Director of Planning. So it'll be an internal discussion and review. So it would be vetted internally whether it was in line enough with what was approved today.
Okay, Mr. Flemington, I saw your hand up.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I was just, there was a comment made by the applicant's agent with regards to the dimensions on the width. And he said that it would be going the whole back of the house. So I just know if the drawings that are submitted here are correct, or if I just misunderstood what he was saying on that.
Mr. Frone, do you want to comment on that?
No, it's not the full width. It's just under 24 feet.
Okay.
The full width of the house is 30 feet. No, the drawings that were submitted to the building department and to committee are showing that dimension.
Okay, all right.
What I understand is instead of last year where it was in one side only, that they've extended it. Is that correct?
Yes, exactly. Yeah, they've made it wider.
Okay. Okay.
Does that satisfy you, Mr. Flemington?
Yeah.
I could jump through you, Madam Chair. I was just going to mention it's now more centralized in the rear of the home, and instead of being solely to the one side, and it has increased in width slightly as well.
Okay. So if you're in agreement with the wording of the condition, who would like to move a motion with that regard? Okay, go ahead, Mr. Flemington.
Thank you. Just give me 1 sec here. Okay, so Madam Chair, having reviewed the applicant's application in writing, as well as the town staff report that I did note was in support of the motion. Also, having taken into account the oral presentation this evening from the applicant's agent, noting that there will be a change within the peak of the roof elevation, and noting that it was described that that elevation will no longer be a peak. It would be moving from the house downward to the yard. I am prepared to move a motion in support of the application. There were no letters of support or of objection submitted, as well as in the oral presentation this evening, there were no oral objections or support of the application. I do find that it is minor in nature. It is keeping with development in the neighborhood and meets all of the tests of the Planning Act. I will move it with the two motions. That the addition be built in general accordance with the site plan submitted with the amended height to the satisfaction of the Director of Planning. And those drawings were dated 2021-08-25. So obviously it still has to meet the Director of Planning's approval, as well as the second condition that the approval expires 2 years from the date of the decision if a building permit has not been issued for the proposed construction.
Okay. So just to clarify, we're tying it to the submitted site plan and we're leaving the elevation drawings to the satisfaction of the Director of Planning, correct?
That is the intent of my first motion, yes.
Okay. Is there, Ms. Buckerfield, do you have a comment?
Oh, I just wanted to make sure that the site plan was tied to that, to the correct date of 2021-08-25.
Okay, so because we didn't have a site, okay, I see what you're saying. So the submitted site plan is dated 2021-08-25.
Correct, and that will show the setback and where that's located on the property.
And then the elevations will be submitted according to the satisfaction of the Director of Planning.
Correct, and I don't think that you mentioned in your motion that it would change the height, and I don't believe that that's what was being proposed. I think it was just maybe the peak of the roof may change.
So sorry, I thought I mentioned that in my motion, that it's the peak that is changing.
Oh, okay. Yeah, but I don't know if we've agreed that that's going to happen for sure, so I'd be hesitant to put that in the condition.
Oh, okay, so I'll revise my condition accordingly.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Okay, Ms. Secretary Treasurer, did you get that?
I'm just realizing that you want to that addition be built in general accordance with submitted site plan dated 2021-08-25 and elevation drawing to the satisfaction of the Director of Planning Service.
Perfect. Yes.
Thank you.
And then the second standard condition. All right, is there a discussion on this recommendation? I see none. All those in support? Okay, the application has been approved, none opposed.
Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Okay, have a good night.
Bye-bye.
Okay, I believe we're on application CAV 119 of 2021. Let's get there. Yes, application CAV 119 of 2021 at 15 Lambert Court. If anyone is interested in speaking to this application, please call 905-815-6095 and staff will be standing by to take your call. Okay, go ahead, Mr. Peters.
Good evening again, everybody. I'm here on behalf of Grunweiss Architect and Associates as the authorized agent for the applicant owner. Our proposal at Lambert Common is seeking 2 minor variances, both of which we have support from planning on. The first would be to permit the maximum total floor area of a private garage to be 65.77 meters as opposed to the permitted 56.0 meters. The expansion of the garage is all internal, and we agree with planning that because of this internal expansion, the garage has no negative impacts on the streetscape or the surrounding neighborhood. The second variance is to permit the maximum residential floor area ratio of the dwelling to be 31.82%, whereas the official allowable residential floor area is 29%. This change in residential floor area is largely driven by an extension of the architectural elements of the roof. There is no change in overall height, and the height of the existing house is already within character for the surrounding houses in the neighborhood. If anybody has any comments or questions, I'd be happy to comment.
Very well. Are there any questions of Mr. Peters at this time? Okay, I see none. If there's anyone in the audience that would like to speak to this application, please raise your hand in order to be invited to speak. Oh, Ms. Murray, go ahead.
Yes, through you, Madam Chair, I note in the staff comments, the drawings submitted with the application include new stairs and raised planters in the front yard that may exceed the maximum height outlined in the restricted covenant. The applicant should confirm the height of the new front yard elements, including the plantings, with the raised planting wall. Purpose of the restricted covenant is to preserve the view from the rear bay window of 17 Lambert Common to Lake Ontario. I'd invite Mr. Peters to comment, please.
Yeah, absolutely. So the rear yard, sorry, could I just ask for clarification? Are we speaking about the raised planters in the rear or the front yard of the residence?
Front yard.
Front yard, okay. So those planters are within keeping in terms of the overall height and finished floor level, I guess, of the existing residence. There's no proposed plantings that we're going to have in terms of boxwoods or anything that would be extending beyond, I guess, that first floor height. And the planters are remaining relatively close to the house itself. They're not extending beyond into the front yard setbacks in, I would say, an excessive way. And like I said, the intent is to keep those plantings relatively low, although the planters are raised higher than what exists currently.
So as a follow-up, Madam Chair, so will the raised planters in the front yard exceed the maximum height outlined in the restrictive covenant?
I'm not aware of the maximum height allowable by that restricted covenant. I can speak to the overall height of the planters being 4'6", so just over 1.4 meters, I believe, is that conversion. 4'6". Yeah, so the overall height of the planters would be from grade to coping, approximately 1.4 meters in height.
Thank you. And through you, Madam Chair, to town staff, does that meet with the covenant?
Through you, Madam Chair, the restricted covenant restricts to 1.5 meters. So if the planters are below that, then that should be sufficient. I also want to note that we recommended that the condition be that the site plan be to the satisfaction of the Director of Planning so that they could specify on the plan the height of those elements. And it would be clear in the final plan what the height of those elements are to ensure that there's no issue going forward. Hope that's answered your question.
Go ahead, Mr. Hardcastle.
I think this question is, thank you, Madam Chair, and through you to staff. I'm just clarifying your comments relative to the comments within the staff report. The staff report indicates that the restrictive covenant restricts the height for the structures as well as associated plantings from exceeding. Is that the case? And as such, if the structural components max out at 1.4 meters, that means they've got 0.1 meter of planting. So if the grass gets a little too long, it may exceed the covenant.
Through you, Madam Chair, thank you, Mr. Hardcastle. That is something that needs to be put into consideration in this, and it may be appropriate that they lower those planters in this situation in order to ensure that they do not exceed that covenant. And the applicant will have to know that they have this obligation that's put on title for their property, and it will be needed to be complied with on an ongoing basis.
Yeah, and we absolutely understand that, and we're more than happy to work with planning to ensure that that covenant is met and that we're not exceeding the planting height. Like I had mentioned previously, the intention really is to keep any plantings in those raised beds very low, mostly just for ground cover, not to have large shrubs or boxwoods or plants that are extending. I guess like a half meter or so above what that planter is built form is.
Okay, any further questions or items of clarification before we take the matter into committee? Okay, who would like to move a motion? Go ahead, Ms. Murray.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Having conducted my site visit and reviewed the applicant's written submission, as well as the town's written staff report, which I know is in support of, and taking into consideration the comments made with regards to the covenant, I think the requested conditions that have been provided by town staff will be appropriate and will address any issues with regards to the covenant. So I'm satisfied that the minor variance application meets all 4 tests under the Planning Act. I note that there were no comments from the public, written or oral, this evening. And the conditions are that the proposed additions be built in general accordance with the submitted site plan to the satisfaction of the Director of Planning, and elevation drawings dated August 27th, 2021, and that the approval expires 2 years from the date of the decision if a building permit has not been issued. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Very well, thank you. Is there a discussion on this recommendation? I see none. All those in support? Okay, the application has been approved, none opposed. Okay, have a good evening, Mr. Peters.
Thank you very much for your time.
Okay. We have minutes to confirm for September the 21st. Who would like to confirm those minutes? Mr. Hardcastle. And then motion to adjourn. Ms. Murray. We are adjourned at 8:05 p.m.